Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for our virtual A Year at the Crane Trust. And as this is a sneak peek for the upcoming crane season, we have 34 cranes live right now on the river. So we thought we would share as we get things rolling, and we're going to bring to you footage that will be a sneak peek for next year. So just be aware we are recording this session, and tonight we will hear about all the plans we have for virtual programs in 2023 and how you can get a front row seat at this upcoming crane migration, all from the comfort of your home. We want to thank you all for joining us tonight, and we are especially grateful for your interest. Without people like you supporting the Crane Trust, the work we do here and the views you're seeing now would not be possible. We are your hosts. My name is Kylie Warren. I am joined here by others. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Matt Fong, I'm the Director of Fundraising and Outreach.
I'm Alexa Rojas. I'm the Biological Science Technician.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Sandine. I am the Outreach and Special Events Manager.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bethany Ostrom. I am the Wildlife Biologist.
So please feel free to introduce yourselves and drop a comment where you're chiming in from. We'd love to know more about you and where you're all watching from. To those of you who have done this already, thank you so much and welcome to the program. So we are going to transition away from present time to look at last year. As we progress through the program, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to ask them in the comments and we will answer them as the course goes on, or we will take time at the end to make sure they are all answered. As you probably know, we have several virtual cameras on the property and we're able to stream them to you. Tonight's program uses a blend of recordings from our river and wildlife cameras alongside pre-recorded footage I have acquired throughout the year on my camera, phone, or other video recording devices. We will begin and conclude by looking at the spring sandhill crane migration. Our journey will take us to the prairie chicken leks of early spring, the summer fields where the bison graze, the summer studies where our team survey moths, mammals, butterflies, and other creatures. And we hope to join you. We hope you enjoy the imagery tonight. And once again, we are happy to take any questions. I'm going to pass the mic off to Matt Fong, our Director of Outreach and Funding. Take it away, Matt.
Well, hello, everyone. It's so nice to be here tonight and to see so many people participating in our virtual program. I think you can all probably imagine that since the holiday break, we've been quickly and swiftly working to get things ready for this year's spring migration. So it feels like it is fast upon us. I just wanted to take a moment to thank folks for being members. I know we have several wonderful members that are on with us. and just grateful for your continued support of the Trust. We really do value our members and appreciate what they do to support our work and our mission, and we really couldn't do our work without our donors and members. I will point out, if you're not a member yet, there's still time. So you can join the Crane Trust. Our base membership level is $75, and that provides you the opportunity to watch and participate in all of our virtual programs through the crane migration season, but then all the way through the rest of the year as well. We did just post on our website and on the membership portal our virtual streaming program calendar for the upcoming March season. So Kylie and her team have put together kind of an active schedule. They do both virtual programs that are guided 5 days a week, and so those are posted via our website and on the membership portal. So I encourage you to take a look to find the times that we will be going live and hosting virtual programs. For the other days that we're not doing guided virtual events, we actually just let our live stream run. So you can sit back and relax from your kitchen table or the comfort of your couch and watch the migration happen each day. And so it's a great opportunity for you to feel like you have a front row seat to the migration. And so I know that there are many folks who really do value that as an experience, even if they're not able to get to central Nebraska to experience the migration. Additionally, I will point out, if you have not joined, as I mentioned before, there's still time. You can join at cranetrust.org. So that's our website. There's kind of on the rotating header on the main page of the website, there's a membership link, and you can join right there. It's easy to do, and so you can select whatever membership level fits your budget the best. One additional membership level I'll point out, the $250 level does provide you each summer. We combine photographs from all of the photographers and guests who are here over the course of the March migration season. We combine and put those together in a lovely photo book. So it makes just a really nice kind of coffee table book, a little memento from the migration season. So we do send the photo books out to our $250 and up members. So I encourage you to do that if you have not done that before. Lastly, I'll just mention that we also, if you do happen to be able to make it to central Nebraska this March, we do have some public blind tours that are still open. And so our public blind tours are open to all guests. So we do those in the morning and in the evenings. Those are hosted and coordinated by our volunteers. So they take you out to our blinds right along the river, and really great opportunities for you to see and witness the sandhill crane and whooping crane migration. So do book those if you're around and have an interest in wanting to see those cranes in person. Lastly, I think my most important job here is to actually hand the microphone off. So I'm so pleased to welcome and introduce you to Amy Sandeen. She mentioned her name at the beginning here. She's our new Outreach and Special Events Manager, and I am just so excited for Amy to join our team and participate in this upcoming crane season. Amy's a native of central Nebraska and is so knowledgeable. She's actually way more knowledgeable than I am about the Platte River and the Platte River ecosystem, and I just know she's going to do such a great job in representing the Trust and welcoming people to central Nebraska. So I'm so pleased to turn the microphone over to Amy.
Thank you so much, Matt. What a great colleague to have, and what a great introduction, and what a great place to be working. This is so exciting for me. I've been here just 3 weeks now. Again, I'm Amy Sandeen, and I'm thrilled to be filling a new role at Crane Trust as the Outreach and Special Events Manager. And I'm loving seeing this footage. I assume it's from last year, right? With that whooper right there with all those sandhill cranes. So fun. And it's so fun to see everybody from all over the place, from Wisconsin and New York and Oklahoma and Colorado. And Heather, I see you and I'm laughing with you. I like your crane joke in the comments. Very nice. So again, I'm Amy Sandeen, and brand new here at the Crane Trust and really excited about the crane season that's to come. And I've already met so many amazing people with so much passion about the mission of Crane Trust, and every day is a wonderful learning experience. My background is in outdoor experiential education and nonprofit management, so I'm feeling at home here, and it's a really good place to be. I've been in Hastings for the last 15 years as executive director at the Prairie Loft Center for Outdoor and Agricultural Learning in Hastings. And before that, I was doing this kind of work with nonprofits and outdoor education centers all over the place, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Massachusetts, and elsewhere. But I grew up here in Hastings and just love this community and this ecosystem. I'm really looking forward to engaging the community and creating new and enhanced education programming for people of all ages from all over. And I know that you all have great ideas to share so that will help us reach even more people with our mission, our message, and all the understanding and appreciation that we can bring around the Big Bend region of the Platte River and all the lives, all the species that use the habitat here and thrive in this part of the world. I was asked if there's anything in particular that I love about Crane Trust and why. And I just want to say I've been involved peripherally for many years as an adjunct instructor at Hastings College, as a nonprofit leader, as an outdoor educator, very amateur photographer, and just a lover and learner of all things outdoors. I've already met a great number of wonderful people through experiences with the Crane Trust, and I'm pleased to be part of the team now. I've been with college students when they are experiencing a blind tour with the crane migration for the very first time, and I am in awe of their awe when they are seeing this spectacular migration and hearing the birds and seeing the sunrise or the sunset and experiencing that magic. And I cannot wait to experience that with all of you and so many others this crane season and then throughout the year with our bison, with all the other prairie animals, river dwellers, and humans from all over the place. So I'm thrilled to be here. You'll hear from me again at the end, and so glad you're joining us and glad to be in this with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Amy. As she mentioned, she will be here till the end of the program. And if you are enjoying this footage now, what we're looking at is footage from the 26th of March. It was a glorious morning. I was actually in the blind that morning, but I was also operating this camera that you're looking at remotely. It's kind of cool technology that we have. We could see where the whooping crane was on the ground, and we were able to move the camera to that bird as the program for the live stream continued. So if you want to see more footage like this, please do consider joining the Crane Trust as a member. You can also subscribe to our video channels, our Facebook channels, and our Instagram for more footage and content about cranes and all of the other wildlife we have here. One of the many questions we get at the Crane Trust is, how do we know how many cranes are here? AKA, how do we count the cranes? I'm very honored tonight to have Bethany Ostrom on the air with us. She's joining us remotely, and she is going to talk to us a little bit about the crane flights the science teams do to count the cranes. Thank you so much, Bethany, for joining us. How are you tonight?
I'm good. Thank you for having me talk about the crane flights.
And Bethany, how long have you been at the Crane Trust?
So I started at the Crane Trust as an intern actually in 2019, but I've kind of worked my way up to become a wildlife biologist since then. So it's been a fun journey.
What is your background and focus?
So I would say, well, my background is I'm from Nebraska. I went to high school in Grand Island and then went to undergrad at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, focusing on fisheries and wildlife. But within the wildlife realm, I would actually say I don't have a focus. I like to be very broad and look at ecology as a whole. But if I had to pick a focus, I guess you could say birds. But I love looking at ecology as a whole.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And counting cranes, so that gets you in the air with the birds. Well, hopefully not at the same time. But yeah, exactly. So, how many crane counting flights do you think you've done over the course of your time here?
So last year was actually the first year that I was officially in the plane for every flight that we did. I was kind of a secondary role I wasn't quite counting all the cranes yet, but I was learning how to, and I was helping record that data. So I think overall maybe around like 15 flights. So not too many, but just gonna keep on adding more.
And so I guess the $1 million question here is, how do you count that many cranes?
So yes, that is definitely the $1 million question. So it's quite the process. So we go up in our plane and we fly from either Chapman to Overton, which is like an 80-mile stretch on the river, or the other way around, depending on the time of March. And so we fly next to the river so we can look down at all the roosts that are on the river in the early morning. And we have this system where you count about like 10 cranes and you see how big that group is, and then you extrapolate that out to 100 cranes, and then you extrapolate 100 cranes and how big that area is to 500, 1,000, 10,000, and so on. So there's a lot of very fast mental math and estimating that's going on in your head pretty quickly, because we have to do that 80-mile stretch of river around in an hour's time, because otherwise the cranes will be all in the fields, and then they're harder to count when they're out in the fields rather than on the river. Yeah, it's very fast, mentally exhausting process, but it is pretty cool. And then occasionally we take pictures of a roost, and then we go back into the office and we actually count every single crane in that picture, and then we see what our actual count of that roost was, and that way we can figure out kind of a error estimate to see how far off our counts were.
Wow. That does sound like a brain cruncher to me.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine. Oh my goodness. So you have to count them really fast, because if they leave the roost, you're going to lose the count. It's just too impossible to count them in the fields. That's incredible. And so again, how long is the flight? And are we talking like an hour? Are we talking 30 minutes? What is the time frame that, what's the length?
So we try to get the flight done between essentially first light and then before an hour and 15 minutes after first light. So if it goes past that hour and 15 minutes, then we've probably missed a lot of those cranes, but we do a pretty good job of staying on schedule and flying over the river at a steady pace.
Wow. And are there any challenges? Is it scary to be up there sometimes? Or I mean, the plane's quite small. It's a Cessna, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it is quite cozy up there for sure. We can really only fit like 3 people on the plane, and that includes the pilot. Um, and every once in a while, there's turbulent winds that kind of shake the plane a lot, and it depends on if you get motion sickness or not. Which, fun fact, I was actually pregnant last year in the first trimester when I was on those flights. So I was dealing with morning sickness and motion sickness, and so that was
Wow.
not fun. um,
Challenging.
but overall, I think it's more awe-inspiring than scary. There's just a few moments where like turbulent winds or weather might make it a little scary for a second or two.
Wow. That's amazing. And then do you have any favorite things about counting cranes or anything you would like to add?
Oh, I love being up there when the sun rises. It's one of the most beautiful things. Like the cranes in the river are pretty and beautiful from like down on the ground, but then when you get to see the sunrise over the braided river, um, amongst all the cornfields and just everything, you get lost up there quite literally. In my mind, I have no idea where I am other than that the river's below me.
Wow.
But it is just a beautiful experience.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bethany. I just can't imagine counting that many cranes that fast, especially that early in the morning and without or before my morning coffee. That would be very intense. And so we're just to those of you who have joined us, we've just gotten done speaking with Bethany about counting cranes. And if you want to know more about counting cranes, please visit Platte Basin Time Lapse's video website. They do have a video called Counting Cranes that they produced recently. I think it was last year. And it gives you a sort of audio-visual narrative through that process as well, also with Crane Trust members. Team members. So that's a great piece of work to check out. And we are going to move on from cranes and talk about the second program we like to do in the year, which is about our prairie chickens. Now, I don't know if many of you are aware, we do have a prairie chicken lek on Crane Trust property. It's out on Mormon Island. And last spring, we piloted a prairie chicken virtual tour, which ran quite a bit like our crane tour, where we showed footage of prairie chickens from our live cams. But then we also experimented with pre-captured footage as well, bringing that to you through our broadcasting stream. And so Bethany is going to continue to talk with us about prairie chickens. Bethany, I'll let you take it away. We are looking at a image of prairie chickens. This is an image that was taken, I believe, on a Canon camera. So this was not a live camera. The next clip will be a live camera. Bethany, take it away.
Yeah, so as a wildlife biologist, I get the pleasure of also being part of the prairie chicken surveys that we do. They're honestly one of my favorite surveys because the prairie chickens are just such a charismatic bird. So I'm sure you can see on the footage that we're showing you, but they have these beautiful orange sacs almost on their neck that they blow up and like press out air in a certain way that almost creates this like booming, low booming noise that is beautiful but also haunting at the same time. And so they do this booming on what we call their lek. So a lek is where the male prairie chickens go to do their breeding displays, which is what their booming is. So they boom and they strut. So when they're booming, they puff up their orange air sacs and make that deep boom. And then when they strut, they kind of do this little dance with their feet. So they kind of like lean down a little bit and stick up their tail feathers and then like stomp their feet really fast, like a little dance. And so that's their mating display, how they try to attract females. But the problem is with this lek is that it's only so big, and there's only enough room for, you know, the toughest of the tough and the prettiest of the pretty prairie chickens. And so when there's a lot of the male prairie chickens, they might do little displays of aggression, like they might run at each other and kick their feet up at each other, called sparring, or they might do a thing where they kind of quickly jump in the air and flap their wings, called flutter jumping. And all of this is just so beautiful to watch. Last year, our lek on Mormon Island had around 25 birds at least. We saw at one time at least 25 birds, but there's definitely more out there. At one point, a few years ago, we had at least 40 birds. So that was fantastic. But actually, I think what happened is some of the birds, the chickens that were at our main lek, actually went out and formed new leks elsewhere on Mormon Island, but we actually don't know where those leks are yet. So we need to keep an eye out for new prairie chicken leks, which is pretty exciting.
That is exciting.
Yeah. So I guess I could probably talk about prairie chickens for quite a long time. They're pretty cool. But Kylie, how much time do I have to talk about prairie chickens?
Well, we have maybe another minute, and
Okay.
then
So, female prairie chickens, they also are, well, they're attracted to these mating displays, obviously. But a fun thing that I've witnessed a few times on this prairie chicken lek is that the males will get so aggressive, they'll actually chase away the females thinking that they're males. And so the females aren't as colorful, and they'll kind of stay on the outside of the lek, so they're harder to see. But eventually they'll start pairing off with the male prairie chickens. And what's interesting about our prairie chicken lek is that it was kind of a surprise that we had them when we first found them. They weren't usually in this area, but since we found our prairie chicken lek, we've noticed that they are dispersing more in this area as well. So that's pretty interesting and pretty cool. So we survey these birds, this same spot every year, to see what they're up to and how many are out there.
thank you so much, Bethany. And I'm sitting here with Alexa, and I'm to understand you both went out and saw prairie chickens recently, correct?
Well, actually, we went out on a prairie chicken survey, but unfortunately we didn't actually see any. But I do know Alexa had a fun story with that one.
Yeah, it was, even though we didn't see any prairie chickens, it was still a fun experience. And at one point, though, Bethany did mention that she saw something fly over the blind that looked like a prairie chicken. Unfortunately, it never came back, and we couldn't identify it. What was kind of funny, though, was that as we were driving away and I was looking out the window, I thought I saw a prairie chicken. So I shouted, "Wait!" And Bethany immediately pressed on the brakes, and we skirted to a stop. Turns out it was only a ring-necked pheasant. So I felt a little silly, but this kind of thing happens all the time in the field, where when you're scouting the landscape as you're in a car, you'll catch a glance of something that pushes you to stop and look. And Bethany mentioned something that I thought was notable, that it's always better to say something than to not say anything at all. It's better to be wrong and not get data than to be right and not get that data.
Very true. And interestingly enough, pheasants are parasitic broods. Did I say that right, Bethany?
A parasitic brood, yeah.
Yeah, so they go into prairie chickens' nests among other ground birds, take the eggs, and then lay their own, which I find really, really sad. But there you have it, survival of the ring-necked pheasant way, if you will. And we're going to move on to our bison. Our prairie chickens are amazing, and I do have a quick question here as we move on to this. Julie asked if we have public tours of prairie chickens. Not at this point. I don't know if that's ever going to be on the itinerary, but hopefully someday we'll have more opportunities to at least virtually share our prairie chickens. We have a joke for everyone. What did the buffalo say to his son?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Oh, geez. Bison. So here we are. We've got Amy and Alexa who don't mind the dad jokes. It's all good. Here we are looking at footage that was mostly captured via camera, via DSLR Canon Mark IV, that we took out into the field to get this footage of bison. Our virtual cameras are unable to really see the bison pasture with any good proximity, so we shot this footage at a safe distance. I was using an f4 600 prime lens with a 1.5 extender, so that helped me, a 1.4 extender, so that helped me get out pretty quickly, pretty far. Apologies, we had a glitch, so I will say that again. We were shooting the bison from a very safe distance from a Canon Mark IV with a 600 f4 prime with a 1.4 extender. So unlike many sorted tourists, we were not getting up close to these animals. That said, we were able to appreciate them from a distance, and the bison herd at Crane Trust is very special because it is a conservation herd, and we look to protect the bison and use and have the bison regenerate the prairie naturally with the way that they work it. I have Alexa here. Alexa was a part of the bison working session that we had last December, and she's been in the field with the bison a few times. I'm going to have Alexa talk about her experience with the bison.
Yeah, so I had a great time, and a lot of other people did get to work up close with the bison. Sadly, I didn't have the opportunity to pet any, but the people that did almost have that privilege had specialized training to do that. And I still got to see them from a few meters away while they were being held in pens for them to be processed. And that was definitely a unique experience. And one of my favorite experiences having to do with the bison was looking at their parasites under a microscope. So to do this, someone had to collect fecal samples from the bison, and then we had to prepare those samples for the microscope. So although zooming in on poop through a microscope might not sound that appealing, once you get past the ick factor, it's really fun to identify and count the parasite eggs. So one favorite thing about working with the bison, another favorite thing, was really just being able to learn so much about bison management and get glimpses of what it's like. I've learned a bit about their behavior and social hierarchies, as well as methods that the Crane Trust uses to manage them. So collecting fecal samples has the purpose of assessing parasite load. Collecting hair samples is used to identify calves genetically. Holding them in a pen is required for all this to occur. Every single action that's imposed on the bison has a purpose, and most often the primary purpose is to maintain their quality of life, which, as Kylie said earlier, also circles back to maintaining that quality of their habitats.
Well, thank you, Alexa. That was amazing. Really appreciate your insight, and you're a brave soul to have to look at those samples, but I guess that's one of the benefits of being a scientist, is that we get to do interesting things. One of the interesting things about bison is that they do regenerate the land. I wish we had Josh here tonight to talk to us further about how they do this. We do have experts here at the Crane Trust, and in June or July we will have another bison virtual where you can hear them live and talk about the many ways that bison regenerate the prairie. Since we are kind of focusing on sneak peeks at cranes, I do know that one of the interesting things about bison is they wallow. And one of the things that was found in past research is that cranes do make use of these wallows. They go and they dig for insects and forage within the wallows. So the bison and the cranes do have a sort of almost symbiotic living arrangement while the cranes are here. It's really fun to kind of be able to see cranes and bison in the same place at once. Another interesting fact about our bison is that these baby bison tend to are born on our landscape as well, usually starting in May. And this year we had a really late one, didn't we? Was it October or November? When was our last baby born?
It was beginning of October.
Yes, we had a bison that was born quite late in the year, and indeed still quite tiny when we were working the bison in December. They are known as keystone species, and they graze heavily on native grasses. Also, as kind of mentioned with the wallowing, they do disturb the soil, which does allow a lot of different plant and animal species to flourish. So when we think about the bison, they're definitely a legacy. They used to be in the millions. 30 to 60 million, they believe, was the range prior to colonialism, and now they were almost taken to extinction, and now that many conservation groups and tribes have been making efforts to bring them back, they are starting to rise in numbers again, and we're very fortunate here at Crane Trust to have a herd. Our herd sits around roughly 120 animals at its largest, and that does include the babies as they're born. And so I'm going to let you enjoy this footage for a few more moments while we take a little break. Thank you again for joining us. If you have any questions at all, please drop them in the comments, and enjoy the bison. answer that. That is an excellent question, Deb. Yes, we believe there were twins. In fact, Patty, who is one of our, I guess, celebrity bison around here, she was a twin and was bottle fed. And through that bottle feeding process, she had become really comfortable with people. And so Patty is super friendly, and she can be super helpful at times as well, because wherever Patty goes, the other bison tend to follow. So we really appreciate Patty for being around and kind of helping the other bison know that the people around here are not there to hurt them. I have Amy back with us. She has taught kindergartners about bison last week and enthusiastically offered to come and share some of the things that she learned.
I did. Again, I've only been working with Crane Trust for 3 weeks, and in week 2, I was asked to go into a couple of kindergarten classrooms to teach them about the American bison. So I did some quick learning, and some of the things that they loved were also the facts that I found fascinating. One is their scientific name is bison, bison, bison. I love that. I don't know why I get such a kick out of it, but I think that's amazing. I mean, you can just call them by their first name, that's fine. They can grow up to 2,000 pounds, the males. The females, about half of that. Their highest point, their tallest point, is their shoulder hump and can be 6 feet tall. So these are big animals. And they have what look like short legs and tiny little hooves, but they can run 35 miles an hour. So what Alexa was saying earlier about staying out of their way is important. Also, another fun fact is that their tails act like a flag. So if their tail is up, it's a warning flag that they're probably about to charge. And if their tails are relaxed and down, then it means you're minding your own business and they're minding theirs. And still stay out of the way, but there's no warning flag there. So those were some of the fun things that I got to learn about bison as I was preparing to teach the kindergartners. And I do see a couple other questions here that one of them I can answer. One is assuming that this is a request for support. Have I missed the donation link? We can always welcome support. Thank you so much for asking that. And on our website at cranetrust.org, you can find a link to donate. Memberships start at $75, and you get access to special virtual crane viewing tours. A membership of $250 adds some perks to that, including the annual photo book. And we welcome donations at any amount, at any time, to help with the mission that we have here. So if you go to cranetrust.org, and there's a donate button right there, we would really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for asking. There are a couple other questions here that I'm going to let other people answer.
Thank you so much, Amy. I really appreciate that. It's so exciting to have people excited about our bison. Deb, I'm going to actually double check on numbers of how many bulls we have, so I'll get back to you on that. And let's see, we had another question. No, maybe we're good. Oh, what changes have been observed in the section of the prairie where they graze? Well, interestingly enough, as mentioned, because they stir up the land, they give other opportunities for other insects and plants and even birds to take advantage of the stirring up. I've seen an interesting image of the way bison graze versus the way cattle grazes, and I wish I had that with me. But bison tend not to mow the prairie. They pick and choose, and as they pick and choose, the prairie it's not level. It does not become like a lawn, whereas cattle, at least in this image, the image showed that the cows were kind of basically grazing in such a way that it almost looked like to level off the prairie. So I guess bison, while they are a bigger animal, they're less, what's the word? Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Right, yeah. They are part of the system. And one other way that they help maintain and sustain the plant life is that they actually they pinch off bunches of grass rather than pulling them up from the roots. So they actually wrap their long tongue around a bunch of grass and then pinch it off against their teeth. So the roots stay in the ground, and that soil health is sustained and maintained because those roots are creating the aeration in that soil, and those plants aren't being pulled up by the roots like some other grazers might do. So that tongue is kind of amazing too. Lots of cool stuff about how they support the prairie.
Thank you, Amy. So glad Amy's here to support me in this. All right. Glad you're enjoying the bison footage. We encourage you to become members of the Crane Trust. Hopefully you'll get the chance to see our live bison session in July. That's when that took place last year, and that's when this footage was captured. If you have any more questions about bison, we'll be happy to answer them as the program continues. However, we are going to move on to our summer adventures that happen here at Crane Trust. In addition to bison, Crane Trust plays home to many other species, including insects, a variety of birds, and a variety of mammals. I've got Alexa with us tonight to talk to us about moth surveys. This is never before seen footage on our virtual program, and this will kind of show you a 2 or 3 minute clip of how moth surveys are done. And Alexa, you're here tonight, and she's kind of our moth expert. Alexa, why do you love moths so much?
Well, that's a big question. There are a few reasons why I love moths. I think one that pops out is that they're part of the underdogs in the animal kingdom. People don't really realize how important they are to the ecosystem. They can be really important pollinators. They're actually the largest group of pollinators. So they're responsible for the health and quality of numerous vegetation communities. And in addition to that, they can be prey items for bats and birds, and they're really just so important to the ecosystem.
And so what's going on in this footage here? We've got a moth survey happening. We've seen some people set things up, black light. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone has seen all the memes out there, but moths are really attracted to light, and they're specifically attracted to this type of light that we are shining on a white sheet, a white bed sheet. So you can also see a bunch of other critters out there. There's a lot of beetles, a lot of mayflies, so many other insects attracted to the light.
And so he pulls the moth off and brings it to the research table.
Yeah, so whenever we see a new moth that we hadn't seen that night yet, we capture it using the top of a water bottle or soda bottle, and then we place a little piece of cardboard underneath. So kind of similar to how you'd capture a moth if it was in your home.
Very cool. And so you measure the moths? Like, so what kind of data do you take? I saw a picture being taken.
So we gather a few biometrics. So we first take photos. We take very good quality photos of moths so that we can identify them either that night or at a later time. And then we take measurements of them. We take the forewing length and the total length. And it also depends on what shape the moth is. So sometimes if the moth has this very rectangular or like spread out shape, unlike this moth here, the sphinx moth, then that would be the forewing length or the forewing length. But if it's a sphinx moth like that, then it would be the total length.
Wow.
So that's from head to abdomen.
That's amazing. Thank you, Alexa. I went on a few moth surveys with the team, and I can tell you it was humid and you were covered in insects, but it was a ton of fun, and it kind of felt like a prairie party with the black light and the ambience of everybody collecting these moths. In addition to moths, we also look at butterflies at the Crane Trust, and this year the Crane Trust, Alexa, was involved in a butterfly tagging program, and you were also involved in collecting butterflies for that. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we were interested in monarchs because monarchs are unique species. So we wanted to help out this organization called Monarch Watch. So we would kind of look for these monarchs. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. So we'd be riding around our ATV or go to a spot where we think they'll be and walk around and wait for a monarch to show up. And then we'd have our net and run around catching them. What was funny to me about this was that it kind of reminded me of something. It transported me back in time to this memory of watching this show Arthur, where one caterpillar makes a butterfly with his net, and he gets compared to Moby Dick. So I felt like it was Moby Dick, and we were searching for them to save their little net. So
I'd love to go.
yeah. So after we caught them, we would put on a fresh, clean pair of medical gloves to handle them. We didn't want to transfer any diseases to them, especially this parasite called Ophriocistis electrospira, or otherwise known as OE. We would then take a sample of their abdomen scales to test for that parasite, and then we would tag them with a sticker to mark them and identify them. And then after all that, we would finally release them, which would be microlipper to watch them flutter away. So we tagged them for the organization called Monarch Watch so that they can keep track of their locations, when they migrate, how long it takes for them to migrate, and to compare how environmental factors like drought might affect their numbers in different regions.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
In addition to butterflies, we also study small mammals. And it was actually my birthday that I got to go on this survey with Alexa and Brittany. And there were some interesting things that happened on that journey. So I'll play you some clip from that. And Alexa, want to talk a little bit about this particular day?
Oh, this day. Is this the day where we caught a special predator?
Yep. So they set up the traps in the ground, and
Yeah, so for our surveys, each survey we set up a 200-meter long transect with live traps throughout the transect. And we would catch small mammals like shrews, voles, and mice. And we call them small mammals instead of rodents because not all of these small mammals are rodents. Shrews and voles are actually insectivores. So whenever we found a small mammal in the trap, we would gather biometrics like hind foot length, ear length, and toe length. And I personally really liked mammal surveys, simply because I just love small mammals. I worked with small mammals before I came to the Creek Trust, so I've had an interest in them for a little while. And I'm really interested in the animal behavior, so I'm always amazed at how the social and individual behavior that comes from animals with such tiny brains.
so here's discovering
Oh yeah, this is a 13-length ground squirrel with its very distinct and notable pattern. That was an exciting thing. Normally, you don't catch small mammals that large. You catch small mammals that are like half that size and raised.
And so we're very gentle with them. We had to measure them. We had to basically put them in a bag. We try to get them to relax and then food. And then once we're done measuring them, we'll let them go.
Yeah, it's a really exciting part to watch them escape.
Yeah, because it is hard. I mean, we're trying to do this research to protect the prairie and learn more about the health of the animal, but at the same time, we've got to feel a little bit like they were abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
So, but you know, so this little guy jumps out, he runs off, and that was an exciting day. We actually found two
We
that
found
day.
two,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there were traps that were
Mhm.
relatively close to each other as well.
Yep. And that's Brittany and Alexa walking off into the yonder. And so during our virtual programs, I do like to exhibit the biodiversity that Crane Trust has. And so around the Crane Trust, we have a multitude of birds, mammals, and other species that this little clip is going to show you. And this was also taken last summer. mostly over June and July. That's a bobwhite. That's a type of quail. It makes a sort of call. I can't do it very well, but when I do, people. There we go. There we go. So we have other people who can do it. We had a very cute little family of killdeer show up right in front of our Crane Trust Research Center. And they decided for whatever reason this would be a great place to have their eggs. So this little family, mom and dad, were very protective. Anytime anybody walked in or out, they'd do this sort of wing display to kind of, what that is to lure other predators away from the nest. They act as if they have a broken wing. However, they're perfectly fine. It's kind of a ruse. And so it was very interesting and somewhat heartbreaking to see that happen every time we left. But this is a little changing of the guard. You can see that they are very protective of their eggs. So this is one parent going off to forage while the other takes over the nesting duties. Kind of some neat behavior here. So those are killdeer, and Crane Trust has a lot of killdeer on our property. And you will start to hear them usually around crane season.
Oh yeah, the
Happened. Dia, we'll look into that issue, but thank you for letting us know. So we have a blue heron, again on the river. This was actually my gateway bird. When I was young, I loved blue herons.
I also love blue herons. I feel like they're prehistoric, like cranes. Just those long legs and the way they fly with their legs out behind them, and solitary, prehistoric, ethereal creatures.
Yeah, they're definitely beautiful. Yes, Dia, a gateway bird. In 5th grade, I had to make a blue heron habitat for a project at school, and we had a place in Oregon called Jackson Bottom where my uncle took me to see blue herons. It was pretty fun. So that's probably why cranes are so near and dear. Here we have deer. Speaking of deer, we have a lot of deer at Crane Trust. And one day I saw a fawn in our pasture with his spots still intact.
Our volunteers at the front desk today said that a young deer was right outside the windows of the gift shop eating from the bird feeders this morning, and they watched it for a long time right here by the Nature and Visitor Center.
But that's a bobolink. And they're pollinators. Do you know what kind of butterfly that is?
No.
Don't. You should.
I'm more of a moth person.
I know some butterflies, but I don't know that one.
And so all of our prairie plants are just so beautiful this time of year in June.
Maybe someone watching knows what kind of butterfly that was.
And our fireflies that light up the prairie at night.
I love looking out when that happens. It looks like a sea.
There it is. I learned that Fireflies, also called lightning bugs, are different colors in different regions.
It's pretty amazing.
I heard they're blue in some other part of the world.
Blue, orange, green. Yeah.
And moving on to fall. So we've left the summer, and now we're going to have a look at our fall migration. We do get cranes here in the fall, and if you joined us at all for a virtual last November, you will have learned a little bit about how sandhill cranes and whooping cranes use the Platte as a stopover on their way south to warmer grounds. Interestingly enough, this year we had a group of roughly 1,000 cranes stick around into December, of which that 20 or 34 or so that we saw earlier tonight were of that group until the rest of them left when we had our first cold snap. This is the larger roost that they created toward the end of November. And so it was really exciting to take the science team out to the blinds. Our science team is seasonal, and so some of our science team members won't be here, particularly if they're on an internship during crane season. So to give them the sense and opportunity to enjoy the crane season, at least in a smaller rendition, I really enjoyed taking them out. But Alexa, you got to go out and see the cranes. How did you like that?
Oh, it was amazing. Just to know that it was a tiny sneak peek of what's to come in the spring was crazy, because I was in awe already of the sandhill cranes.
And it was, prior to dawn, we would get up and
Oh, yeah.
go out into the blind, and I apologize, that was my phone. So prior to dawn, we would get up and go into the blind and watch the cranes. This footage was taken on a Canon Mark IV with my 600 prime lens, and these cranes just very gently wake up and they start their day, and their general routine, as is in spring, is they'll slowly wake up. If it's a calm day, they'll be very social with each other on the river, and then eventually they'll start to peel off the river and go into the pastures or prairies to feed. From there, they may stay there all day, or they may go back to a wetland, or they may even come back to a river and do this thing that I like to call loafing, and that's kind of their midday. I allude it to a crane day spa, where they go in and they rest, they take a nap, they preen, they socialize, and then they dance, and they eventually go back out into a pasture or a field and have their evening graze or their dinner, and from there they will go back to the river for the evening. And so if you come for crane season, you'll get to see either the morning or the evening, or hopefully both, blind experiences. And between the two, you can drive around and look for cranes in the field foraging or loafing around in the midday. It's a beautiful experience. But there's really nothing like seeing it on the river. And if any of you want to add anything about cranes while we look at this fall footage, feel free.
I imagine that everyone here has at least seen the online virtual footage, if not experienced this in person. If you have a chance to experience the migration from a blind, I highly recommend it. There's nothing like it. I've had so many people say that it's more than they ever could have imagined, and I haven't even hosted these tours yet. So it's phenomenal, and when you do see the dance and the interplay and the launch, or all the birds coming in, and hear that sound, along with the beauty of the night where you see the deer and other waterfowl and maybe a coyote that's scaring away some of the birds, and you can see all of those interactions on the river between the different species and just witness something really special. So I don't could keep on for a long time about it, but just if you haven't booked a blind tour yet, I encourage you to go on the Crane Trust website and book a tour and join us this spring. I can hardly wait. Alexa, I don't know. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, for me, it was a wonderful experience because I mentioned I loved animal behavior, so it was really neat to see how these cranes behave at different times of the day. So in the early moments of the morning when it's still dark out there, most of them are sleeping, and then you can see them poking their heads up a bit as the light comes in. Yeah, so it was a really neat experience.
Thank you, Alexa. I just got a notification that we had an audio problem, so please bear with me for 1 minute. So, in addition to our sandhill cranes, we also have whooping cranes that come through our properties in the fall. And Alexa, this is the morning that we were seeing whooping cranes in the bunker blind here in Alda. And I thought I'd let you talk a little bit about that experience if you'd like.
Yeah. So this was really close to our campus, so we had the privilege of seeing them pretty close. This was really exciting because they were here for quite a while, maybe around 2 hours or so, that we got to observe them and record their behavior. What was really fun to watch was that there was a single sandhill crane hanging out with this pair of whoopers and their offspring. So it's always really fun and neat to watch when there's interspecies communication and interspecies interactions.
Yeah, this was a fun morning. All of us went that morning. We got up before dawn. We were joined by Paul Julian, so thank you, Paul, for joining us. It was a great endeavor. And then we went into the bunker blind, which is on this hill, kind of looking down on the river to watch these birds. Alexa, you have some experience surveying whooping cranes. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and what your experience is going out to look for a bird, and sometimes being discouraged and not finding it, and then how you feel when you finally find it.
Yeah, so what often happens when you're looking for an endangered animal is that you don't find them because they're so scarce. And that happens quite a few times when you're on a search for a whooping crane. And when we went to St. Paul, this happened a few times where we would have a notification that it was at a location, but we could not spot it. We didn't know where it was. So we'd spend a good time searching, going down different roads, going to different croplands, different wet meadows, different parts of the river to look for them. And so whenever we did spot them, it was an amazing experience because to me personally, it felt like, again, a treasure hunt where the prize was finding a whooping crane and then being able to record their behavior and gather more data on them.
Very cool. Yeah, we're going to take you now to St. Paul, which Alexa and I drove to one morning. We'll just let you watch a little bit more of this footage before we do. But Alexa, do you remember that morning when we got up before dawn and we drove? The St. Paul is on the Loop River. Amy,
Yeah.
have you been there?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
My mom grew up in Loop City, so St. Paul is a place that we used to go all the time.
And we had a report of 2 whooping cranes on the river, and it was very hard finding them, but eventually we did find them. So this is what that experience was like. Give you some visuals. So our first sighting of these cranes was actually from the bridge, which was frustrating because you can't stop on a bridge to look at birds. That will get you in a lot of trouble. So we did find a place, kind of an overlook that was before the bridge, a little pull-out that we were able to pull out on and see these cranes from a very far distance. And it was a family actually, wasn't it?
We were 2 whooping cranes and a juvenile. Yeah.
Oh, actually, it was 4. That's right. And so later, after the cranes left the river, we drove for a while and eventually found them in this cornfield. So it was a family of 4. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Two juveniles and 2 adults. It was really special to see that. And like sandhill cranes, whooping cranes take advantage of our agricultural fields, and they do like corn. Jump in
Yeah.
anytime you want.
Well, I think we talked about it a little bit, but this is one of the most endangered species in the world. They were down to, I think, 14 individuals, right, in the 1940s, and nearing 600 individual birds now. So seeing these juveniles is especially exciting. Out of the 15 types of cranes in the world, they're actually the tallest. They're the largest crane kind, and 5 feet tall. So that's a really large bird, and so majestic and amazing, and incredible that so many people are doing such hard work to restore and sustain the habitat that these endangered birds need to survive and thrive.
Yeah, and we were very blessed at Crane Trust last year to have, or I'm just guessing it's almost 2 years now, 2021, one of the largest gatherings of migratory whooping cranes at once. And just because I have it in my feed, I am going to show you a little clip of that. Yeah, we're doing good. Almost done.
We're losing a few people.
That's okay. And so this footage was taken from, again, our VIP blind. and it's fun to watch them bathe. So if you want to see more of this footage, I encourage you to look back at our fall program, which should be available online to Crane Trust members. And then just one more look at fall. One thing we did last time that I'm going to do for you all again is show you a little bit of a comparison. So here is a shot of Sandhills from the blind from this fall. And in a minute, I'm going to show you the comparison between our fall migration and our spring migration. And here is the promised comparison. So that did seem like a lot of birds to me when I'm not used to spring migration. And this is fall from our river camera. This would have been captured last November. That's spring.
They just blend.
Yeah, it's crane camouflage. Coming to a department store near you. And there's the comparison, side by side.
That's amazing.
They're sleeping. This is fall footage. Deb, I'll pass that message on to Bethany to start counting. This is our spring footage from last year. And there's a side by side. And now we're going to take you back to last spring as we begin to close for the night. If you have any final questions at all, please leave them in the comments. We're going to wrap up here in about 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Amy's got some final words before we close out. Amy, thanks again for staying around tonight, and Alexa, thank you as well. It is always fun to be here, and Amy, I'll let you say what you need to say.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here. I've learned a lot, and I love just being part of everything that Crane Trust does. And I love that all of you have joined us tonight, too. I know that people who are watching are also volunteering and donating and visiting and photographing and being a part of Crane Trust in so many ways. And we hope you join us and continue to offer your time, your talents, your treasure with donations, and of course your testimonial by sharing with other people about this amazing phenomenon and what Crane Trust does to support it. You're already involved just by being here today, and we're so grateful that you've joined us. There are some other ways that you can stay involved. Obviously, donations are always welcome, and you can become a member. Memberships start at $75, and you get access to lots of virtual programs and virtual crane tours in March. And your kindness and generosity help our efforts to engage the community and protect and restore this native habitat. And obviously, you can also make a donation in any amount. It doesn't need to be $75, or it could be much more. And you can just go to cranetrust.org and the donate button, or come visit off the Alda exit and come see the Nature and Visitor Center and say hello and find out what more you can do. Always follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We try and stay active on social media, and we share regular updates, how you and others are making a difference and how you can continue making a difference, and everything we have going on. Obviously, you can join us for more virtual programs like this throughout the year. Our speakers series coming up in March. We have an art show coming up on March 18th at the Visitor Center, and we'll have lots of community programs and other activities throughout the year. So please stay tuned and be involved in those. And of course, again, spread the word by telling your friends, your family, your colleagues why you're passionate about the Crane Trust, and invite them to join you in making a difference. It really does help do the work that we do, and the more of us who are involved, the better we can do it. So we're still taking your questions for a few minutes, and I just want to share my gratitude to all of you and for welcoming me into my first virtual program tonight as a new Crane Trust team member. Thanks for all of you for being here tonight.
I couldn't have said it better. I'm so appreciative of not just everyone here who comes and stays late and participates in virtual, but to everyone watching, and to all of our volunteers and our photographers and our citizen scientists out there who keep us up to date on what they're seeing in the field. One of the things that we do like to highlight is it is you who tell us sometimes where the whooping cranes are, where other birds might be that we might have an interest in, and we're so appreciative of that. I mean, we can't do this work alone, so thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
There's one question that asks if this video will be on YouTube rather soon.
Yes, we will be uploading this video. It takes a few days usually to get it uploaded, and it'll process overnight, and then we will put it online for everyone to see. That will go on our Crane Trust YouTube channel, which can be accessed through our membership portal. And yeah, absolutely do check out that video as well as our other content online. Just go subscribe at our YouTube channel. Alexa, do you have anything else you want to add?
Just thank you for letting me join in.
Alexa, you rock. Thank you so much for being here. So as final questions roll in, I do want to say thank you again for joining us to tonight's session on our virtual program, A Year at the Crane Trust. It not only featured what we experienced last year, but what we will feature in the future and the sneak peek to come of crane season. So we hope you all participate in our virtual crane tour, and we hope you come to Crane Trust and see the cranes for yourself in person. If you are a member, thank you so much for your support, and we certainly rely on your support so we can continue to protect and maintain the physical, hydrological, and biological integrity of the Big Bend area of the Platte River, so that it continues to function as a life support for bobwhites, herons, bobolinks, killdeer, the other deer, bison, all kinds of moths and insects, prairie chickens, our beautiful plants and grasses, and our flowers, and of course, our whooping cranes and our sandhill cranes. We will close out with an image of our upcoming calendar. This is what our virtual calendar for crane season will look like. We are going to run crane season virtuals starting on Wednesday of every week through Sunday. Monday and Tuesday will be an opportunity for you to see the audio only without commentary, but the other days of the week we will either provide commentary, or we will even have some guests come in and talk to you about their experience with the cranes or the work they do in and around cranes. This program would not be possible without the hard work of all these individuals. Thank you all so much, and we are going to end our program with another live look at the 34 cranes that have joined us on the river tonight. So thank you so much for joining, and this is Team Virtual signing off.
Sleepy cranes. Good night.
Cranes After Dark.